This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of May 15th, 2022. What's on my mind this week? The solution-oriented mindset. If you trawl through LinkedIn profiles for a while, you will see a very common phrase on a lot of people's descriptions. Solution-oriented, solution-focused, solution-driven. What does that mean anyway? Here's my take. When presented with a problem, you, the solution-oriented person, start at the solution and reverse engineer your way back. You figure out how to get to the solution by any legitimate means necessary. Why do we value this skill? Well, a lot of people aren't solution-oriented. Let's look at a couple of examples. Right now, in my country, the USA, there is a shortage of baby formula. It's causing quite a bit of panic, and panic that's largely unnecessary. Suppose you had a child, a newborn. You know the solution is to feed your child, right? But the normal path to the solution that you've chosen, formula, is unavailable. So what do? Well, what a lot of people are doing is yelling at manufacturers, yelling at politicians, yelling at each other. None of those activities solves your problem, right? Which is you got a newborn that's hungry, and your primary chosen solution is offline. Now, quick disclaimer, I am not a medical professional. And the following is not medical advice, just so we're clear on that. If you were solution-oriented, what would you do? What does the solution-oriented mindset look like? Well, you would start by looking at the existing solution and then determining what the next closest solution is and if it's viable or not. If you were to Google for the ingredients of standard baby formula, which is intended to replace human breast milk, you'd see a long list of ingredients like skim milk made from cow milk, as a hint, lactose, high oleic sunflower oil, soy oil, coconut oil, whey protein concentrate, potassium citrate, and so on and so forth. It's a really long list of these things. And you'd see that per 100 grams of solution, it would contain 68 calories of energy, 1.3 grams of protein, 3.5 grams of fat, and 7.6 grams of carbohydrates. Okay, cool. So that's the solution we're trying to replace. The next logical step would be to look at the ingredients of human breast milk itself. What's in it, right? Again, quick Googling, find clinical papers and scientific analyses that show that human milk is 87% water, 1% protein, 4% fat, and 7% carbohydrates, right? Compared to cow's milk, it contains less protein and lower amounts of casein. But it's still otherwise pretty much the same thing. The only thing really noteworthy about human milk is that the protein content is lowest among all mammalian milks, compared to like rat milk, which has like 10 times the amount of protein. So don't feed your kids rat milk, I guess would be the key takeaway there. But that's our actual solution, right? That's what we're trying to replicate. So what's the next logical step? Okay, we don't have human milk for whatever reason. We don't have formula. What's next? Well, the next logical step is to see what other milks are available and how do they compare to those target ratios. We have cow's milk ratios, right? 3.2 grams of protein, 3.9 grams of fat, 4.8 grams of carbohydrates, etc. You have goat milk from goats, 87 grams of water, 3.56 grams of protein, 4.14 grams of fat, and 4.5 grams of carbohydrate. Cool. What about sheep milk? Sheep milk is 83 grams of water, 5.4 grams of protein, 7 grams of fat, and 5.1 grams of carbohydrate. So just of those three animals, cows, goats, and sheep, chemically, cow milk is closest to human milk. That's one of the reasons why formula is made from it, right? There are still differences, but it's fairly close, which means that if you have to choose between not having a solution, no formula, right, and finding a reasonably close, perfectly safe alternative, regular whole milk from cows, you've arrived at a solution that gets the job done. Is it ideal? No. But does it meet the bare minimum? Yes. And there's a big gulf between bare minimum and ideal. But if everyone wants the ideal and it's not available, there's a lot of solutions in between nothing and the ideal. And that's something that, again, a solution-oriented mindset is going to address. Say, okay, how can we get close to the ideal? We know we're not going to get there, probably. But it's better than giving up, throwing our hands there and saying, this is all somebody else's fault, right? If I had to feed a newborn based on the available data, whole milk from a cow is a logical choice until supply chain is resolved, right? That's the solution-oriented mindset. You know what you need to solve. So how do you solve it in the best way possible? Let's look at another example, one that's closer to home for many folks. In Google Analytics 3, also known as Universal Analytics, we had a feature. It was a nice feature. A lot of us used it, called filters, that allowed us to change and remove bad junk data from entering our Google Analytics accounts. Many of us had filters set up to knock out particularly egregious spam bots or block internal traffic or any number of things. We're like, you know what? We don't want that data in our Google Analytics account. In Google Analytics 4, that feature's gone. Poof, doesn't exist. So a lot of folks complained to Google about it. Many, many more folks complained out loud about it on social media and forums and Slack groups and so on and so forth. But we know complaining is not a solution-oriented mindset, right? None of those things is going to fix the problem that you have today, which is that suddenly you've got a lot more junk data going into your Google Analytics than you used to if you're making the transition from GA3 to GA4. So, what does the solution-oriented marketing analytics professional like you and I do? You look at your available tools and you see what's possible. The answer becomes clear when you start thinking about Google Analytics 4 and how to get to not letting that data in, right? Google set up filters in GA3 to keep bad data out of Google Analytics. In GA4, Google's design intent that they have said pretty clearly is for configuration of GA4 to largely be handled in Google Tag Manager. So you go like this, aha, the solution-oriented marketing professional says instead of complaining, maybe we're supposed to design a way for triggers not to fire when junk traffic is arriving, right? We designed trigger conditions inside Google Tag Manager as an exception for the Google Analytics 4 base configuration tag. You say, I don't want GA to even track these visits with these characteristics. And you prevent Google Analytics from tracking a visit when those conditions are met. So you replicated the outcome, the solution. No bad data in your GA account. But instead of using a built-in feature, you just go up the chain a little bit to Google Tag Manager. You've engineered a solution with the tools you have. That's the solution-oriented mindset. How do we solve this thing? How do we get to the outcome that we're aiming for? We have plenty of terms for solution-oriented folks, right? Hackers in the truest sense, life hackers, MacGyvers, after the 80s TV show character. But the personality traits remain constant of solution-oriented people. Folks who are truly solution-oriented are tinkerers, analysts. They're endlessly curious. When you go to a restaurant with them, they're the ones who are like chewing slowly to deconstruct the flavors in the food, trying to figure out how it was made. When you listen to music with them, they're the folks who are mentally separating out the different tracks, trying to figure out how many layers went into composing in the digital audio workstation, the DAW. Right? Is this one drum track, 5 drum tracks? You can hear them thinking about it. When you go to a museum with them, they're looking at the painting, saying, how many layers is in this oil painting? Is it 1, 10, 100? How many different ways did the artist paint this thing? They're reverse engineering. They're hacking. They're just trying to understand how the thing works. They're endlessly curious. It is human nature to complain, but it is human genius to solve. How do you solve problems? And what lessons could you take from solution-oriented role models, fictional and real, to be even more capable and even more clever? In other news this week, some articles I was working on, IBM Think was this week. I have a long transcript from a roundtable I did. But probably the one I think is really worth reading through is on regulating AI. And it's something that's been on my mind a lot lately is the necessity of putting some guardrails on this technology, because there's some, as promising as it is and as powerful as it is, AI also has some pretty big problems in it that are inherent to the technology that we've got to fix. So give that one a read. New jobs this week. We have a data engineer at Rate Hub, a data scientist at Merck, managing director of digital content at the Rockefeller Foundation, digital demand manager at Nokia, and public relations specialist at Digimentors. For ads this week, of course, Google Search Console for marketers. Good news, you're going to stop hearing about this course in a couple of weeks because the new Google Analytics 4 course that I'm currently building should be out by the end of May. So stay tuned for that. You don't have to stay tuned because I'm going to annoy you about it endlessly once I launch the thing. In the news this week, we have how to find trending sounds on TikTok. I know some folks this week were expressing some questions about, what do you do when a trending sound is also obscene? I'm like, well, I guess you don't use it then. But it's a good thing to check up on. How to create compelling video content for learning via the folks over at TechSmith, one of our partners. Good stuff there. Some roundups on link building in SEO and leveraging synergies between SEO and other channels. Building high-confidence chatbots with GPT-3 is in the news. And, of course, tons of announcements from IBM. Upcoming events, in about just over 3 weeks, I will be in Montenegro for the Spark.me conference, and then immediately afterward, virtually at the MarTech conference, doing a session on attribution modeling with my friend and business partner, Katie Robert, and then the Marketing AI conference in Cleveland in August. So those are the events coming up. That's the news for this week. Hope that you are staying safe and well, out of harm's way of all the crazy things that are happening in this world. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.